Okay,
Thank you, Adnan.
good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Amar, Adnan, how are you? Nice to meet you. We've got a
Thank you,
wonderful
Kaustubh. Thank you.
topic. The topic is, thank you. The topic is, fintech bank partnerships and how it's going to change the future. And what's happened is that because of COVID-19, humanity is going through a siege uh, as we navigate this pandemic. And the thing is that the businesses in most markets, including Pakistan, and the individuals, the customers, the personal users and the business, both of them have started to demand a new level of digitization to operate their lives and to operate their businesses. And what's happened is that the banks, the incumbents, are now feeling the pressure to go out and create those services. And guess what? The platforms and large brands are very slow in creating those services, and the service can only now be quickly brought to market through fintech and bank collaborations, and that's what's happening everywhere. And that's the fastest way to go out and fill that real void that has arrived because of the COVID. So that's the backdrop. With that, I open the conversation. We've thought about a few important questions that we would ask each other. That's how we use the time effectively. So over to you, Adnan. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Basically, pandemic has, of course, changed the world with a deeper impact, and same is the case with financial industry. And what we believe that once in Pakistan things have started to open up and we have already lifted lockdown. So what I can see that the banks are very eager to have partnerships with companies like us, and they have rightly in a situation, and they believe that they have changed the banking. They have to introduce more and more services for customers to to transactions. And what I have seen that in a 1 month space time, we are going to sign at least 2 3 new banks in our ambit. So I can see a lot of changes in banks, and banks are opening up, and they have changed the mindset, and they are far more aggressive. And I see a lot of potential for companies like us after the pandemic who are specifically working in the digital space. So, what is your take, Amar? How do you see after pandemic, and how do you see the collaboration between fintechs and banks?
Thanks, Adnan. Look, definitely the pandemics opened up a few closed minds. The public has reacted very well to adoption of digital channels, and one of the key things that we used to see when the adoption was happening was once the pandemic is over, people are going to go back to branches or go back to the conventional methods. But that hasn't been the case now with the what we've observed overall, and I'm sure it's true for others. We've seen a growth of, let's say, 10%, and after the difference has just been maybe 1%. So only 1% must have gone back. So that shows a clear adoption which COVID has resulted in into digital. Now, having said that, once we saw what was happening and the adoption was up, it was a very clear sign that we need to see how we can collaborate with other players who are also moving faster, maybe faster than the banks in this space. So that's where the need to explore came, and I think that need to a realization that we have serious players out there which can help us offer services to our customers much if we were to build them ourselves. Plus, the other aspect that we were talking about before this, and I'll just bring that here, the entire regulatory regime change with the EMI licenses and the PSO PSP licenses coming in give a very good comfort to the bank when it comes to partnerships. So I think that's also added a lot
Absolutely right.
in opening up the mindset. of the banks and enabling them to partner.
Just like to, I believe with your answer, there is another question, which is I feel that there is a perception or maybe an image that banks are usually conservative and skeptical about partnering with fintechs, right? So I know Faisal Bank in partnership with apps as well as they are partnering with Finja as well. So what are the key things you assess in a fintech for partnerships? So as a banker, Amar.
Look, we look at yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Amar. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Amar, you are
So
audible. You
we
are
we
audible.
look
Yes.
for we primarily look for two things. One is that does the fintech help us bring something new to our customers, which they are not getting right now, or something that we probably have to give them later on, and it's going to take us much more time to do. So that's one of the things. The other thing is it something which would end up into a revenue proposition? Not immediately, obviously, that's not the thing, but over a long period, as a relationship, can we make it profitable? So our view on bringing in partners, especially on the fintech and the enabling the ecosystem side, is more of a view of a how corporate bankers would look at a client from the very start. So taking a customer who's just setting up a textile unit, taking him forward, getting all of those things, supporting him throughout the journey, then eventually leading some big consolidations and things like that. So it's a very relationship oriented view that we have. So we look at that and we see how this relationship will progress in the future.
Uh, you're absolutely right, Amar. And earlier I also served the banking industry, and I was the chief digital officer in one of the banks in Pakistan. So what I also realized that while for partnerships, bank also assess that the team and the banking experience of fintechs as well, right? You've also worked in fintech. Kasib also worked in banking industry, and myself. So we having a banking experience and then coming and joining fintechs and resolving industry problems, that gives confidence to the bank, as well as if you're getting EMI license or PSO PSP license, so that gives additional strength to the to the company, that the company whom bank is partnering is a right company and they've got been approved by central bank. So that also gives bit edge to such startups like us or Kasif. What do you say, Kasif?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dekho, we need to be very aware and to the fact creating partnerships for banks is not a natural thing that comes to banks or senior leaders at the bank. And
Absolutely.
the reason is very simple, that value, they that store value, then they grow it, they protect it, they nurture it, they invest it, and all of that. And when a fintech partnership comes in, it's effectively saying out and outsource parts of customer relationship or parts of the transaction. Now when that happens, there is a confidence loss, because the bank strictly is built around confidentiality and security and all of those things. So now anyone in the bank, we need to understand that in the value chain, can come in and say no to the collaboration, right? So that's the nature of the bank. Anyone can say no, and when they say no, the partnership kind of collapses. So then how can you go out and collaborate from a banking platform? You need a two prong approach, in my view. The first is that it's the leadership, it's the CEO and the board. if the CEO and the board are going to go out and this new paradigm where the banks multiple partnerships, companies much smaller than them, it's not happening. And the thing is that the CEO and the board don't have digital orientation in most cases because they come from another world. So I would encourage the state bank to go out and make sure banks, their CEOs and their boards go for a 1 week live training to MIT, Harvard, or whatever catches their fancy, and get the basics going. And if every has a training budget, a part of that budget has to be spent on creating digital orientation at the board and at the C level. That's number one, if you're serious about partnerships. Number two, the digital head in the bank is actually the collaboration head. He's the front end of the part. He's going to go out and bring those fintech collaborations to the CEO, who's then going to kick the ball and score the goal. So the CEO and the board can't do anything till the time where digital head, that is an entrepreneur, he's in the organization, build consensus, he's going to build collaborative business cases, he's going to drive that collaboration agenda inside the bank, and then eventually allow the seat to sign off. So it's a tag team, and it won't happen in banks which don't have these two breeds. And we are beginning to see, look, I mean, Finja is partnering with multiple banks, and the only areas where we are going to have functional, meaningful relationships are where the digital head is operating like I'm saying, and where the burden of shift to collaboration is actually shouldered by the CEO and nobody less, and the board supports them, because it's tough to go out and do this new type of play for banks.
So, Kasif, so as you said, it is tough, and I'm sure Amar would also agree to this. It's tough to partner with fintechs or take initiatives, and sell something which has not been done previously. If you are trying to introduce some new product or new idea, so it has to be difficult, to convince compliance, risk, and operation people. It's not simple. Everybody knows that, right? So, so is it maybe so the mindset is it because fintechs are considered as competitors to the bank? Is that the mindset which is hurting the partnership or the sort of collaboration which should have been adopted up till now? So is it because of that, or what
That's
as fintech? What
a
I believe that we are here to support banks, right? We are here to resolve and customers to have user experiences, right? We never think that banks are a competitor. We are looking towards bank to have partnerships with us and work together for the improvement of the industry. So Amar, I'd like to discuss with you. It's a very important point. That is it really partnership or a competition?
It's an interesting point, Adnan. Look, I think I've seen both, right? So I've seen
Yes.
both views
Yeah.
in various banks, and I think removing the thing about fintechs as a competition is easy, and it's and then shifting them to understand that this is a partnership can be done. It's basically the fear of the unknown kind of thing. So I think the first time a bank made a loan to a new industry uh, would probably have been the same thing when it came to the risk officers and the compliance guys. So this is a new paradigm, and I think it's a learning process for the banks. So I think when a bank has done one collaboration, the second one just becomes very easy. Uh, and also, I think that now the licenses are there and all of those things are sorted. It just becomes very easy for these guys to understand.
Kasif, since you are one of the
Yeah.
leaders of fintechs in Pakistan. So, what's your take about that? How do you say it? Are you really here to banking and move to banking away or what?
Yeah, question, great question, and till that's not sorted out in banks' minds, the collaboration of. But the fintech bank partnership is about one thing in my mind, and that's about exponentially growing the pie. Okay, when banks go
Yes,
out and operate the way they are operating, look what we got. I mean, we've got 60, 70 years in emerging markets, certain amount accounts with very little transactions. And if the banks continue to go that way, Pakistan would not bank for another 50 years. What's that? So what do you want? What you with organizations that are much smaller than you, with strengths, and then you, as a consequence of that partnership, you exponentially grow the pie. You grow out of the new pie, which was never for you. You give a small part to your
yes,
fintech. If the fintech partner
yes.
fails to grow the pie, gets anything. So I think the banks must go and fundamentally answer this question. Fintech about fundamentally growing the pie, and out of that growth, you share the winning. Right? If there is no growth, there are no winning. So that's the basis of this new world order, which
Asif, you are having lagging. Amar, can you hear him well?
With a bit of a lag.
Yes, yes. So, can you repeat, please? Can you speak, Kasif?
oh, you want me to repeat myself?
The
Sure.
last, last few
Yeah.
Last
sentences.
part.
So was that tip only gives fruit to the fact if fintech and the bank partnership has created new value. If there's no new value being brought, the fintech would not get any revenue or net income. So the partnership will only be fruitful for the smaller partner if it can allow the bigger partner to grow further. If there is no growth, there are no payouts and no gains. So the fintechs can't win till the bank becomes bigger. Now the question is that what if the fintechs and start to play bank's territory? I mean, that only happens if the fintech is unable to grow, right? So if the fintech growing through collaboration, it's about growing the pie. uh, and people that have seen how the smartphones have become pervasive can see the same trends. That's what the platform did to the apps, is what the fintechs can do to the banks. So now we have to be very smart to read these trends, really. And I worry a lot about banks that continue to think that fintechs are going to be their competition, because that is going to be the fastest way to run
Kasif,
anything to
Kasif,
ground.
I seriously think that, of course, fintechs are not, going to threaten banks. Banks offer retail banking, consumer banking, commercial banking, wholesale banking, lending, all sort of treasury bank activities. They offer lots of services, right? And fintechs like you and us are working in a particular domain. It's not like we are not offering all set of services, banking services, and even not in Europe, not in UK, not in West. Monzo, SME banking, right? And they have done well in
Yeah.
UK, in Europe. Still, they can't be the banks like City. City. The valuation of Monzo is around 1 2 billion. A very famous digital, a challenger bank, so-called challenger. Gold is around $5 billion. So you think the bank will own $10 can disrupt and obviously or Barclays or in Pakistan, and we've seen worldwide that banks are also investing into the fintechs, and in Germany, very famous door bank, digital banks, banking. So I think they are here to complement each other. Since we work in a smaller space and we are why if we want to the support of banks, we can really enlarge the industry for the betterment of customers.
Yeah. Look, I just want you to read something to you. This is news from today, 14th September, and it says UK banks sign fintech pledge. So some of the UK's
Yeah.
banks have signed a government-backed pledge to improve collaboration with fintechs. And you know why UK banks are doing it? Because they're saying that UK is arguably the top place for any fintechs to come in and do business because the banks and but for UK to retain that position, the banks are coming together and saying that we will have a lending page and we'll have a point of contact, and coming onto that lending page, you'd be able to consume the bank's APIs and collect with banks, and they've given us a timeline. And this is imperative
Okay.
for UK to continue to be in position number one. So, it's being now a status quo where the banks are starting to come together and create consortium so that they have standards that the smaller companies can follow to collaborate. Uh, it's the writing is on the wall as far as
Okay. Okay.
fintech
Okay.
bank collaborations are concerned.
Okay. And
Good.
and
I think we may be running out of time. How much time is there? A time check?
I'm not sure. Someone from
Okay.
I
Total
think someone will
Communication
tell
can.
us to.
No. Yeah. Go on,
So
Adnan. Go on.
keep
Use the
talking,
time,
right?
please.
Keep talking. So
Yeah.
Kasim and Ammar, all three of us have been fortunate enough to work in bank as well as fintech, right? Ammar is again back to the banking industry. So how's been the so what's the difference? How's been the experience? Kasif like in 20 more than 20 years in banking, Ammar spending 15 years in banking and then going he started fintech and then coming back to the bank. So what's the difference you guys feel between banks and working in a bank and a fintech? It's a bit informal, another is tightly regulated and very formal, suited booted sort of digital ad you gotta be.
Amar, you go. Batao.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I've always had the I've been fortunate enough to be working in banks under leaders are visionary in nature when it comes to digital, and they
Yeah.
are they don't have those issues when it comes to wearing a suit and tie and all of that. So I don't I I think. I'm generally hardly ever in a suit, but only when the occasion demands. Uh, but
Yeah,
uh,
for
uh, but having said that, I think my journey from bank to fintech to bank is not the first one. I've actually done this before also. So fintech to
yeah.
bank
Okay.
to start to bank. I think for me personally, it's about the challenge. And I did something in one bank. I joined a fintech. I did something for them. Then I came back into banking because I think I can do a lot more uh, banking space in growing the ecosystem digitally, whether it's
Perfect.
for the bank's internal customer or for the external partners. And I think nowadays is the time
Absolutely.
to really join and create a fintech enablement
Right
platform,
partnerships.
so to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what
So Kasif, yeah.
we're doing.
Yeah, Mark,
Hmm.
complete. You can. So Kasif, so what do you say, Kasif?
I the thing is that banks are to me they're rule making machines. Okay, so like Rakaposhi Peak is a cloud maker. Clouds are made by the Rakaposhi Peak. Rules are made in the banks. To the point that I always say that anyone can come in bank, and then nobody can take that rule out. So the banking is about SLAs and things in the rule book to sort of ring fence the value around core value. So, and that's just the nature of the organization. And fintechs on the other side
With the
trying to
mindset. It's more with
unlock
the mindset.
value by 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 removing these unnecessary rules one at a time. So in a way, they're very different to each other. In a fintech, you would build a product, and then you start testing it well before its final form. In a bank, committees that would off on everything till perfection arrives, right? So ev- everything that you look at, bless you, Omar, everything that you look at in a fintech and a bank, would operate with a very different approach, really. And that's the
Yes,
value
I
is.
think
If the fintech and banks were alike, the partnership wouldn't create that value.
you're absolutely right. That approach is the main difference between bank and a fintech. When you are working in a bank, so there are other divisions, or maybe there are so many committees, ManCom, IT steering committee, and you have to, as a digital head or maybe payment system head, you have to go there and convince all these people, right? And I still remember the lovely questions, right? For instance, वो अगर digital onboarding करनी है, so for a risk guy, उसको नहीं समझ आता कि ये ऑनबोर्डिंग विदाउट मीटिंग अ कस्टमर कैसे करेंगे आप. सो ये चीजें थोड़ा टफ रहती हैं. एंड व्हाइल वर्किंग इन अ फिनटेक, so you've got progressive board, since they understand what is digital and why it is so important to the economy and the industry, तो वो ज्यादा सपोर्टिव है in comparison to banks board maybe, right? And then आपका जो अपना विद इन फिनटेक कंप्लायंस रिस्क एंड ऑपरेशंस है, वो उनका माइंडसेट भी डिफरेंट है. इट्स लाइक अ टिपिकल माइंडसेट ऑफ ऑपरेशन और रिस्क गाय, सिंस they look things in a different perspective. उनको ये आइडिया है कि मुझे कंप्लायंस को या रिस्क को इस सेंस में देखना है कि आई बिल्ड रेगुलेशन, आई लुक आफ्टर रिस्क, बट आई हैव टू मेक श्योर कि प्रोडक्ट किल नहीं होना चाहिए, should not be killed. So that's a major difference, I believe, while working in a bank and now leading a fintech. So that's a big change. And we are working for product development. We are working for the improvement of the industry, and maybe money making is not in the priority list, right? It's not top of a chart. And for banks, since you are a custodian of people's money, so you have to make sure that every single project has to give return. So these are the key differences I believe are making, these are the key changes I believe while working in a bank and working in a fintech.
Yeah. Just quickly taking
Yes,
the
yes,
conversation forward, anytime a fintech bank partnership happens and values created, a new set of risks come to the table, right? Now,
yes,
that is another
yes,
reason why bank, worry about partnerships, because if scale, because of partnership, it's inevitable that that scale will bring new risks, right? And because of the nature of the bank, which is so risk averse, it a part of the bank to even if the partnership would mean success and money, because it also would mean therefore risk. So that to our earlier point, that the fintechs that have taken to have licenses now, like the PSOs, PSPs, EMIs, and all of that, they start to appear more attractive and easier for the banks to go out and create deep partnerships, and that's why some of the
yes,
smarter digital heads and the presidents and players are, because they understand institutions memory. Time they collaborate, it has to be risk averse, it has to sort of work well. And like Amar said earlier in the conversation, then subsequent partnerships will happen faster, and the bank's ability to go down to more riskier or less established startups and fintechs will also come in.
Yes,
uh,
yes,
you
yes.
know
I think, Kasif, we must give credit to State Bank, especially payment system department, Suhail Jawad and Shaukat Bizinjo, that they have issued EMI, license regulation, which is, providing platform to the companies, and as well as PSO PSP, which is providing platform to companies like us to, prove ourselves, prove our worth in front of the industry. And since raising funds, which, minimum we have to raise around $2 million to either establish an EMI or a PSO PSP, तो उससे एक बैंक को भी एक strength मिलती है, एक perception मिलता है कि right, they are working with the right team and with the right sort of people. So
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how much time is left.
Okay, okay.
Otherwise, I can continue.
We are, no, we are out of time. A message. So it was a great session, and as usual, I enjoyed speaking to you guys. And I
Thank
think we
you,
log out
Kasif.
now.
Thank you, Amar.
If there are questions, reach out to any one of the three of us, and we'll happy to answer. Bye bye.
Uh,
Right. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Allah.